Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, March 8th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. The Big 12 men's tournament begins today, and Kansas is the top seed. We talk Jayhawks with beat writers Gary Bedore and Shreyas Laddha. What does KU have to gain or lose in Kansas City this week, and how difficult is their path to the final? Well, I'd say KU has plenty to gain, and the path, because the Big 12 was such an outstanding conference, is difficult. If KU reaches the final, it probably will have played all NCAA Tournament teams along the way. We'll hear what Gary and Shreyas have to say about it all. Let's get started. It is Big 12 Tournament Week, my favorite weeks of the year, and who better to share it with than KU beat writers Gary Bedore and Shreyas Laddha. Kansas, the defending champion, paved the way to a national championship, right? They won 3 games in Kansas City and then 6 games in the NCAA tournament. But Kansas coming off of a kind of a lopsided loss in the regular season finale down at Texas. And I'm wondering what or if there's anything to be made of that kind of lopsided loss going into postseason play. This isn't one and done yet, but it is tournament play where you're going to play, if you're successful, 3 games in 3 days, or if you're a first day player, 4 games in 4 days. But so Gary, going down to Texas, a game in which Kansas was out of it early and never got back in it really. What kind of impact can that have going into this week in Kansas City?
Well, it probably will be easier for Coach Bill Self to get the team's attention, maybe coming off a loss. They had a 7-game winning streak, so I don't know if the team was fat and happy because it's tough to win on the road. But if they were or had any possibility of getting overconfident. People have been saying a lot of good things about him. Senior night, all that stuff, all the kind words from the national media saying they're the overall number one. So it's possible that loss could be good for him because otherwise you just have a team that would be on a big win streak, and now you want to win the national title, so you steam through that. And you end the season with this incredible winning streak with a team that is good but not great. So I don't think the loss has hurt them mentally. It might fire them up more possibly, but that's just speculation. Who knows what a loss versus a win would do, because KU already had the league title wrapped up. If there ever was a meaningless game, it was that one.
It was meaningless, but you know how Bill is, Bill Self. He'll never back off, right? He never, even with, he's been in positions before to where he has clinched, the regular season title with games to play, and he goes after those games just as, fervently as he does any game. And that was the case Saturday, Shreyas, wasn't it? This wasn't a resting starters game for him. He went after it and wanted to win this game and wanted to win a game in the new Coliseum down there in Austin, but it didn't work out for him. What just in the game itself? What went wrong for Kansas at Texas?
I mean, honestly, I felt like Kansas offense just really never got it going. They had one guy score double digits, Jalen Wilson, as usual. It feels like he's the only guy that scores when the rest of the team can't score. I think they had another guy score 9 points. I want to say that was DeJuan Harris. Grady Dick was completely shut down. He didn't take his first shot. Make his first shot until almost 8 minutes left in the game. A lot of things Kansas excels at, like transition defense, they didn't do a good job at. And it never really felt like Kansas had much of a kind of a say in all these things. It just felt like they were, from the minute that the game started, it just felt like it was in the Longhorns' favor.
It really did. Just watching it, and you guys were there. You're right. Jalen Wilson played well, and as he does often, right? He was the Big 12 Player of the Year. I want to get into the Big 12 awards with you guys here in a moment, but not a good week for Grady Dick. And his his production really dropped off in the final week of the season. Had the offer against Texas Tech. I think that's why that game was as close as it was, because of Grady Dick got the free throws toward the end of that game, but no field goals in that game for the only time this year. And Shreyas, as you said, didn't pick up his first bucket until deep into the second half and finished with 2 3-pointers, I think. What's the concern level about him? I'm not saying that Kansas goes as far as Grady Dick does or shooting, but that's a pretty big element and an important element to what Kansas wants to do. He's got to hit open threes, and when he doesn't, that really bogs down this team.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I feel like him hitting those threes really opens up the rest of the floor, the rest of the guys. I wrote about it. I think Jalen Wilson's kind of slump. I mean, he's not the most efficient player overall anyways, but Jalen Wilson's been in a little mini 5-game slump. I think he's shooting like 37% from the floor. He was like almost like 15% from 3, which is not great. I think it was like almost something like 3 of 15 or something like that. But I think it might have been worse. But just overall, I mean, like you can see how important he is out there on the floor for Kansas, because when he's making threes, it feels like the rest of the guys feel inclined to be aggressive, like DeJuan and Kevin McCullough. And they really need him to consistently hit that 14, 15 point per game mark, because I don't think there's anybody else besides McCullough that can consistently besides Wilson that can consistently do that. And he needs to be Kansas' second option because he's KU's best shooter on the floor. And just him hitting threes opens up the rest of the floor for everybody else to kind of do what they do best.
Yeah, this isn't a great rebounding team. They're not a big team, right? So when Kansas doesn't shoot it well, it's more. It seems to hurt them more than a team that, like last year's team, right, with David McCormick, who could make up for that lack of production from the perimeter. But here we are, and listen, we've spent the first 5 or 6 minutes talking about woe is Kansas, and all they are Big 12 champs. First place in a league that is I don't want to say by far, but from a computer rating standpoint, the best league in the conference. They go into the tournament in Kansas City as the number 1 seed. And I think right now, if the NCAA tournament was selected, they would be a number 1 seed with an argument to be made for the overall number 1 seed. So as is often the case, picking nits with a team that's doing it better as well as or better than any team in the country right now. So let's talk about KU going forward, Gary. What's your expectation for them in Kansas City? Is if they end up playing, they play the winner of Texas Tech and West Virginia, the 8-9 game on Wednesday. So if West Virginia survives that game, this is a team that Kansas handled pretty well in Morgantown back early in the season, but a Bob Huggins team that came to Lawrence and scared the bejesus out of Kansas just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think on paper now West Virginia could easily go lose to Texas Tech and make everything I say seem stupid. But if you were going to pick a surprise team to win this tournament, it would be West Virginia. They've got all 7 of their rotation guys, I think, are seniors or super seniors. And if you remember, they were picked top 20 to start the year. Now, again, Stevenson could play terrible and Texas Tech could beat them. They could be fired up playing under the interim coach and all that. But I think you have a logical argument that West Virginia could knock KU out of this thing on the first night. I don't think that'll happen. They might play. KU might end up playing Texas Tech, but on paper, with this, everybody knows this league you can lose any night. There are a lot of reasons why you could point to West Virginia beating KU, and one of them is they're going to lose all those guys. And Huggins is a smart Hall of Fame coach who might really want to do some damage this year before. I don't know how he's going to replace all these guys, but a lot of teams have to rebuild through the portal, and he's going to be one of them. So I would say I'm not ever going to predict anything but a KU final in Kansas City, but I would not be shocked if this game is a tough one. Or it could be KU could kill them. I mean, what if the Mountaineers have a horrid travel schedule, having to fly all over the place? Huggins hates doing it, and that's always an excuse for them if they're just not up for the flying to Kansas City, having 0 fans, and they could just bow out right away against Texas Tech.
Yeah, look, he's been to the final here. They've never won it, but Huggins' West Virginia team has played in the championship game, and they've had great teams here in Kansas City. You mentioned Stevenson, Eric Stevenson. He's coming off a week so good. He was Big 12 player and newcomer of the week. It's the first time that I can remember that happening. So he was, he's hot. West Virginia's a hot team. Beat Kansas State and Morgantown on Saturday to end the regular season, and had I don't know how many, with the KU loss, is it 4 out of 5 wins or 3 out of 4, whatever it is for West Virginia. And the one loss is the 2-point loss at Allen Fieldhouse, where Kansas couldn't close that game out. They had a 7-point lead with a couple minutes to go, and West Virginia kept chipping away. I think West Virginia's played its way into the NCAA tournament. I think they're absolutely a tournament team right now. And even if they lose to Texas Tech, I don't think that would knock them out. They've had such a good finish to the season. So I think it's a potentially dangerous opponent for Kansas. I think this is right, Gary. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Kansas has only lost once before the semifinals. Maybe it's twice. But I remember one of the tournaments in Oklahoma City, Kansas was a 1 seed and Baylor beat them in an 8-1 game or something. And Kansas went home before the semifinals.
Yeah, I remember that year. Self was really shocked, and everybody was. It was like, whoa, they're out of this thing. So I don't know how you guys feel about how they're going to do, but Kansas doesn't usually like to disappoint their fans who already have plans for the whole 3-day thing, and they want to have some fun in Power and Light. But I do remember that year it was really weird to have the whole weekend off. Yeah, I remember. Not the whole weekend.
Well, but you're right. I mean, basically, but I remember they lost I think it was on a Thursday or something, and Bill made sure that the team got back to class on Friday because he wanted the players to face the fire of the fellow students when they got back to campus. And what are you guys doing back here now? And so that's Bill. Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. All right. Hey, Shreyas, the Big 12 awards came out this week, and Jalen Wilson was Big 12 Player of the Year, and Grady Dick, second team All-Conference, Kevin McCullough, third team All-Conference. This is the coach's team. And what did the AP team came out? We're recording this on Tuesday. The AP team came out today, and I didn't see how it changed from coaches to AP. Do either of you guys have that in front of you?
Yeah, I believe McCullough wasn't on the second team in the AP poll, which was a little surprising, to be honest with you. But I think that's the big difference. Everything else was kind of pretty similar for the most part. Jerome
Tang, Coach of the Year, and Devontae Johnson from K-State, also Newcomer of the Year. So to me, the only real story from a Kansas perspective is DeJuan Harris. Bill,
I was surprised by that.
Yeah, goes out of his way. I think he feels like he needs to sing the praises of DeJuan Harris. And when you watch it, and I know you guys don't, but when you watch a Kansas game on television, and you don't because you're there, Fran Fraschilla, John Shambi, whoever's calling the game, also singing the praises. And Harris is doing terrific things, and he doesn't turn it over, and his assists pile up, and he's knocking down about 40% of his threes, and he didn't make any of the three teams. So that surprised me a little bit. How about you, Shreyas?
Honestly, I was super surprised. I mean, to be quite frank, if I had a vote, I don't because I'm not a coach, but I probably would have picked McCullough over DeJuan Harris. We've talked about McCullough's defense all season long and how good he's been for KU's defense. And you can just see it. I think not just the eye test, but the advanced metrics back up. McCullough is a better defender than DeJuan. And if you're going to put DeJuan as the defensive player of the year, you got to put him on the team, I think, with how good he's been all around. I do think this is – I wrote about it a couple weeks ago. I think DeJuan's play, he's the X factor for KU's team. When he plays aggressive on offense, when he kind of initiates the offense and not just as a facilitator, but as a guy that looks for a shot, KU just looks a lot better out there. It opens up the floor when he drives the ball, when he forces other teams to be, kind of mindful of who he is as an offensive player. But I do disagree with, I think, him not making a team. When you win Defensive Player of the Year, I feel like you have to make at least third team at that point. It doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, look, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But he'll have opportunities to make an all-tournament team this week and then maybe an all-regional team in a couple of weeks. So there are honor opportunities for DeJuan Harris. Gary, don't you think he lands on when we're talking about Harris? An all Bill Self favorites team. I don't know who else is on there, but he's praised Harris about as much as anybody in recent years.
Yeah, I think so. I called one of my go-to NBA guys today who is just great. I wish I could say his name and plug him, but I can't. But we were talking about KU's NBA prospects, and I said to this guy, I know that you love one KU player because I know you love team basketball, and DeJuan Harris would be that guy. And he goes, how did you know that? And he goes, I'm in love with him. He thinks he's probably not tall enough, to be a great NBA player, but he said I wouldn't discount him. He goes, he's definitely going to be in the worst, be the G League someday. But Self can't help but love the guy because his court vision, and when he's on and he controls the game, he's just amazing. I mean, you've covered basketball forever. Have you seen a guy with the court vision of Harris who can just read it and do it? And his offense isn't great. Sometimes it's terrible. Sometimes he gets that little floater thing to drop and it looks really pretty. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he hits that standstill three. Sometimes he bricks it. But for a guy that wasn't even recruited, basically, obviously Self loves him. However, I haven't, heard him overly gush about him just times when he's shooting the breeze. But I think you're right. He's always praising him. And that fact we can say that Self, I bet he's one of his favorites for sure. Self always points to Aaron Miles as maybe even being the best court vision point guard. I enjoy when Harris is on top. When Harris is on, KU's tough to beat. KU's tough to beat anyway. They only lost 6 games all year, but I like him. And it's interesting that I don't think the NBA is discounting him at all at this point.
How many more years does he have of eligibility?
2 more. Two more years.
He could be at Kansas for 2 more years. I mean,
crazy.
Yeah.
He might. I mean, he's got a chance, and a lot of guys who are playing, in these early, 2020 years because of all the extra years that they're getting, right? COVID years up to 6 for some. They're going to obliterate NCAA career records. I mean, it's at some point we're going to have to start, looking at what the NCAA career record for total assists are, because he might, certainly have a chance at the KU record, which I think either Jacques Vaughn or maybe it's Aaron Miles who has it. Maybe Miles passed Vaughn. But I mean, if he plays 2 more years, 70 to 80 more games, he's gonna climb some lists for KU. So
yeah, we got to check that. You're right. He's got a chance if he stays healthy, and you really hope he does. Seems like a nice kid, very good with the media. But, we don't know everything about these guys, but seems like a really, really top-notch guy. And I guess he's made a nice academic career going on. I think he's their best GPA guy.
Well, that's excellent to hear. Anyway, fun to watch. And when he does control a game, he has the ability to control a game. But unlike, many that I've seen at that position in college basketball, he is absolutely fun to watch. Okay, let's talk a little bracketology here. I'm saying that the only way Kansas is not a number one seed is if they lose in the quarterfinal and Alabama, Houston, Purdue, and UCLA all win their conference tournaments. I think the committee would then pause and take a look at look at that situation. And even then, I don't think it eliminates Kansas from a number one seed, but being the regular season champion of by far the highest rated conference is a nice feather in the cap to have for KU. I think what we've discussed is what are their chances of being the overall number one seed. Shreyas, have you spent any time studying the bracketology?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, honestly, I think you're 100% right where they kind of have to lose, I think, first round of this tournament, the quarterfinals round that they're in for them to not be number one overall. I've seen a lot of different kind of brackets, especially Lenardi has them coming out of the Midwest, number one overall seed, especially now with, Houston hasn't lost, but they've floundered lately. They almost lost to Memphis a couple of games back. And they saw Alabama just lost to Texas A&M. So it seems like every case that Kansas has, even when you lose to a team like Texas, which is a top 10 team in the country, it's hard to justify them not being the number one overall seed. You have 15 quad one wins. You have the number one strength of schedule in the country. You have one of the toughest conferences in the country. I mean, I think it was funny today. I saw Kelsey's tweet where the ACC announcers were saying that, top to bottom, the ACC conference was better than the Big 12, which I thought was hilarious because I think if you put Duke in the Big 12 based on either KenPom or net rating or something like that, they're literally number 8 in the conference. So it tells you how good the conference is. And I got an email today about it too. Just, somebody talking about how the Big 12 hasn't been as good as people talk about, which I disagree with. But it's an interesting kind of, predicament because I feel like the biggest issue people talk about is Kansas has 1 or 2 more losses than one of these teams. But how much do those losses matter when you're playing in a conference that's so good? And all the players and Self and everybody have talked about how they're ready to get out of conference play and get out of the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, the only way to measure conference strength right now is what teams did in November and December, because once they start playing each other, that's everybody wins one, everybody loses one, and nobody touched the Big 12 in non-conference play. It was just phenomenal. And then even when those games were over and they still had the Big 12 SEC Challenge, the Big 12 dominated that as well. So I mean, from a anecdotal perspective, the 10th seeded team in the Big 12 is Oklahoma. We're talking about Alabama as a number 1 seed in the tournament, and I forgot what the margin of victory was for the Sooners in that game, but I
want to say 30.
It was
something
substantial. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, and college basketball is full of one-offs, right? That's Alabama had a bad day going to Oklahoma. That happens. It happens TCU lost their Challenge Series game to somebody they shouldn't have lost to that day. But my gosh, and look, the Big 12 could have a big pratfall in the NCAA tournament. You might have one team get through to the Sweet 16 because of upsets. It's just all about matchups, and it happens in the NCAA tournament. But for anybody to suggest that somebody other than the Big 12 is the best conference or had a better season than the Big 12, just flat wrong. That's all there is to it. The Big 12 proved it time and again. I haven't always believed that the Big 12 was the best conference when its coaches were saying so years ago, but I believe it now. I believe it this year. And to have two national championships coming into this year with Baylor in 21 and KU in 22. One thing I'd like to see the Big 12 do, if they want to brag about their overall strength, is to get multiple teams in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. That's happened twice in Big 12 history, and it hasn't happened in 20 years. They did it in 2002 and 2003. KU was part of both of those, but it hasn't happened since then. And I think, look, the ACC had two in the Final Four last year, and I'm not saying it's routine for other conferences, but it just doesn't happen much in the Big 12. And I think for, a Kansas, a Baylor, a Texas Tech, a Kansas State, or a Texas, or a K-State, two of those to get in, that would be a big feather in the cap of the Big 12. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Hey, so Gary, let me give you, as we wind down here, let me ask you this. Percentage chance of Kansas winning the Big 12 tournament. And I ask you in that way because Kansas has won about 48 or 45% of the Big 12 tournaments.
Yeah.
They haven't won half of them. I think it's 11 or 12. And this is the 27th. So,
yeah.
So percentage chance Kansas wins the Big 12
tournament. I would say 85% chance they win it.
Wow, that is a confident.
I do think K-State has two first-team all-league players. They should take advantage of that and try and bag the title. I think Texas has great talent. Baylor, I'm still not giving up on nationally. They've dropped probably more games than they'd like to, but man, they're still good. And TCU, I don't think they're going to win it, but I think KU is not going to lose two games in a row after the Texas loss. And once they get past that first game, I think they will. They usually do pretty well in the semi, and then the final is just a thriller, and whatever will be will be. But I would go with 85.
That is higher than I expected. So Shreyas, spin the wheel. What do you think?
I'm not that optimistic as Gary. I'm kind of shocked that Gary said 85% because 90% of the time I ask him who he thinks is going to win Kansas and opponent game, he usually picks somebody that's not Kansas. So I'm gonna go 70%. I think 70%, maybe 65. I think there's a couple of teams that I look at could give him a tough fight. Obviously, Texas is one. Baylor's another, but TCU is my dark horse. If I was a betting man, just based on the odds and stuff like that, they have Mike Miles back. They're getting a little healthier. That team, when they were healthy, was at the top of the conference, and they could play Kansas if they beat, I think, K-State when they play.
Well, I would go below both of you. I would say 40% chance Kansas wins the tournament, but I would give them the highest percentage of anybody. But I would say 40%. I've been picking this team for years to win, and they have never won, and that's Baylor. Baylor's never won. They've been to the final a few times, but they've never won the tournament, and neither is Kansas State for that matter. I don't know if this is the year it's going to happen, but I'm going to keep picking Baylor until they win it, and then I'll look good because I think. But if you've picked Kansas every year, you've been right, at least almost half the time, and they do get after. They get after this thing. They come here with a determined and focused, and they've been the number one seed pretty often, but I don't think they've always been the best team. And even in some of those years, they end up winning the tournament. So. It's Kansas and tournament basketball. They'll have, except for when they play Iowa State, they'll have the crowd in their favor, and they might even avoid Iowa State this year. Who knows? They're in the opposite side of the bracket. So, okay, Always enjoy the conversation with Shreyas Laddha and Gary Bedore, and we'll see you guys in Kansas City this week.
Yeah, see ya.
See you.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. And tip of the cap to Gary Bedore and Shreyas Laddha for sharing their insights. Today's morning sports edition was nearly 40 pages full of college basketball tournaments, NFL franchise tag and free agency news, spring training updates, NBA and NHL stories, and so much more. Check out why I know it's the best digital sports page at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.